Well, it appears the people have spoken. Let's give him the show, huh? What does he need? Let's see. I'll give him a little push.
I'm a very virtuous person. To have to resist destroying you is a huge struggle for me. If only you believed in Jashin, you'd still have a chance. He could step in and save you right now. It might not be too late to convert, though. To change your ways. Nah, just kidding! You're dead, kid!
Naruto would begin to hyperventilate, not being able to calm down. What the hell was that? What the... Naruto saw in his dream? He saw... Hidan! And Naruto seeing that other person in that dream. He'd remember when Kushina had taken him into that room. There was that kid. He looked just like him. Ah! Naruto would quickly grab his left eye, a symbol disappearing from it just as quickly as it had appeared. Naruto would feel anguish, his stress levels having finally calmed down after all those days that he had begun settling in the Leaf Village. This was his wake-up call. If Hidan's gonna kill him because I stay here. Naruto looked down, his hands shaking. I can't take away someone else's home just because I don't have one. Naruto would decide. His own feelings didn't matter in this. He had to leave. What if they came here, to the place that safe harbored him after his escape? Naruto would gulp. There's no way. I couldn't do that. Naruto would have flashes of images in his mind, images of Kushina, the kindness she had shown him, and all of the kids in this village. He'd see all of his friends dying, his mother, his father, his family, everyone he knew, dead. Naruto knew what he had to do. Naruto wouldn't fall back asleep that night, Suki curling up and whining next to him, making a high-pitched squealing sound, as Naruto calms her, petting her, saying, "It'll be okay. We'll be fine." Naruto would harden his eyebrows, looking upward at the ceiling, having now confirmed what he wanted to do. Naruto and Suki would then go over to meet Kushina the next day, Kushina patiently waiting for Naruto to say his answer. Miss Kushina, thank you so much for everything you've done for me. I promise I'll pay you back somehow, someday. Kushina would already know the answer, as she was preparing to accept it, with Naruto gulping and saying that, "I think I'll be going it on my own from here on out. And thank you so much for all you've done for me," Naruto would say. As Naruto's about to look up or reach out his hand for a handshake, Kushina would already be there, as she wraps her arms around Naruto, knowing exactly why he was leaving. "Oh, Naruto, I'm so sorry," Kushina would say. Kushina holding Naruto would make Naruto begin to want to cry. There was nothing he could do. Even with everything he knew, everything that he saw in his dream, there was nothing he could do to stop it. "Thank you. I'll be leaving now." Kushina would tap him on the shoulder, saying, "You're always welcome to come back here whenever you want." Naruto would nod, wiping the tears away from his eyes, saying, "Thank you," as a silver glow in them would shine a little brighter. Naruto would turn, walking out of Kushina's office. As he leaves, Kushina would be thinking that if she ever had a son, she would have wanted someone just like him. Naruto would be given several supplies from Kushina, that he knew of at least. That being a pack of food worth of 7 days, and a canteen of water. Something else Kushina would have left in there was something very specific, and she hoped it would help him somehow, some way. Kushina would have imparted onto Naruto a small but very useful scroll. As Naruto leaves the village waving goodbye to his newfound friend, as Kushina waves back, as soon as Naruto walking out the gates, she'd feel tears for some reason, but she wouldn't know why. She'd turn around looking at Minato's stone head, remembering everything that had happened after that point. She'd feel a brush of wind as she turns around, seeing a flash for a mere second, a yellow flash, as Naruto's silhouette would quickly become Minato's before walking away, disappearing into the forest. "Minato," Kushina would be thinking. Kushina would finally understand what happened, with her having some idea of who this was, knowing now who had captured Minato. When he had told her that all those years ago, she didn't believe him. No one could have caught Minato. Now she understood. She would feel another break in her heart, realizing that he was stolen right from her. She'd sniff as she rubs her nose, thinking, well, at least a part of you's still here, right, Minato? Kushina would turn, the wind sweeping as leaves fly into the air, as it was soon quickly becoming to fall in the Leaf Village. Something I feel I should make clear is that this Naruto is much closer to Itachi's age than Sasuke, and so when Naruto entered into the Shinobi Academy, it was with children who were at least 3 or 4 years younger than him, because I feel the need to clarify that Naruto was conceived with Minato during the Third Great Shinobi War, during it, before it ended, while Sasuke was towards the end of the Great Shinobi War, a couple years after, and right after Minato became the Hokage. So Naruto is actually close to Itachi's age by like a year and a half-ish. Anyway, now that I've sort of clarified the mess of my timeline a little bit, I hope that is somewhat understandable. Naruto leaving the village wouldn't have any idea of where he really wanted to go. He would decide to take a quick food break as he then sets down his pack, opening it up and finding a scroll pop out. What is this? Kushina had borrowed some information for Naruto. Information about the person he was looking for. This is... Naruto would open the scroll with it marked Love Kushina, as above it would be all the information the Anbu Black Ops had kept on Hidan, the rogue ninja. Naruto now has his first stop set, because according to the Anbu Black Ops, Hidan was never born and never died. He simply appeared one day as a resident of Yagakure, a village far closer to Alabasta than Naruto would have thought, this being the land of hot water, a small country that lies closer to the Stone and Cloud villages respectively lied. This means that Naruto will be backtracking, heading up through the new nation's territory, and having to avoid any threats along the way. Naruto would thank Kushina so much for this first lead, as he decides to save the other information for later, wrapping it up as he then packs into his bag, deciding that he's going to go hunt down exactly who Hidan was like, his interests, everything about him that he could find in Yagakure. Now, Naruto knows that he's no match for Hidan, considering he saw both his mom and dad die fighting him, and his parents were no weaklings. Naruto himself probably couldn't have beaten either of his parents at this point, even with his full power from his assistant Suki, with Suki and him working together. And so Naruto decides while he's on the road he'll be doing some training, deciding that he's going to perfect his magic, to the point where once he gets to fight Hidan, Hidan won't even know what's hitting him. Now, a key tidbit of information here you guys don't know yet is that Naruto, as I mentioned, the actual age of adulthood in Alabasta was 15 years old. Naruto, before finally getting to the village, has not turned 15 quite yet. He's like 14 right now, say Itachi's 16. It was actually customary for a second ritual to take place once you turned 15, this being a ritual that Hidan himself would have conducted on his own once he had left the village when he was a young child, abandoning it and running off. His bloodlustful, psychopathic attitude even showing when he was a child. It's not like anyone went to go look for him anyway. But he did know about it, considering children were educated about these ceremonies that were important for their stage of youth. And so he would have skipped the first one since he thought it was lame, and then eventually would have created his second one, his second coming-of-age trial, that being forging your own weapon. Now, unlike the first trial, where a blood sacrifice to their god would gift them the Shikigami, their guardian protector of their chakra, as well as give them a more focused use on magic, which, unknown to Naruto, would disallow him from using jutsu, something that Hidan never binded himself to, since jutsu is the way of Kaguya's followers, and that's, or otherwise known as Kagura's enemy, her twin sister. Naruto knows that when he turns 15, it's about time for him to create his weapon, a weapon created using his own magic. Naruto is deciding what he wanted to do. His dad used a spear, and his mom uses a sword. Well, I have another year, he'd be thinking, following his traditions, as he decides to think about it from this point forward, journeying forth, as for the next week or two, he'd be walking and strolling along his way, heading towards Yagakure, the land where Hidan grew up, the land where he became a shinobi, not a mage. Naruto and Suki would be walking along, Naruto thankful for the cloak that his parents insisted he have with him at all times, that being the black wool cloak that he has covering his head, protecting him from the rain, as well as the elements. Naruto, about a week and a half in, would finally reach the city, but it wasn't all smooth sailing. Before he had reached the city, he had actually run into a group of chunin who were on the village road. Thinking he was a regular traveler, not having any shinobi, crests, headbands, or symbols, would decide to attack him, mugging him for all he was worth, and taking that creature too. "You won't lay a hand on Suki," Naruto would say, looking up, his eyes hardening as the silver would freak out the shinobi. "What do you say, kid? You're talking to some high-ranked chunin, you know. You're gonna die." One of them would run forward, pulling out a kunai, trying to stab him. Naruto would simply take a step back, moving aside and dodging all of the blows. Magic, while superior than jutsus, has one key weakness. It is far stronger from a farther range than jutsus are. Jutsus, while being slower, were far more effective at a closer distance, since magic has so much power that if you did it from such a close range, you could injure yourself from the attack. This is actually why the ideology of adults actually forging their own weapons and becoming adept in both spirits and Shikigami combat with magic and close combat was such a common thing for the Alabasta tribes, because it just made them stronger and made them more well-rounded. And so children, even from a younger age, were taught how to defend themselves from close distance, considering if they came upon a threat that was too close for them to use magic effectively on. Their main goal with this, to trip up their opponent and get farther away, and then eradicate them with magic. The basic strategy of this Maho Jutsu, a mix between taijutsu and evasion, more based on dodging and rather than attacking, giving yourself opportunities and using your opponent's energy against them. Naruto would simply block and move away, thinking this guy isn't very strong, tripping him with his feet as the chunin falls over, stabbing into the ground. Tsuki. Naruto did have one quickly charging magic attack, as Tsuki would focus on his hand, actually charging the magic for him, as Naruto would feel heat in his palm. Naruto had a very strong power in the wind and sun, so Naruto could use long-range attacks with high power, something rather uncommon since fire and wind users being naturally born was very rare. This, of course, as I mentioned, being due to his Asura title. Anyway, Naruto having this power would just simply blast the chunin with flames, using wind to heighten the heat, the chunin screaming from the heat as they turned to run away, trying to use water jutsu to put out the fire. But it wouldn't be working. "Those are fox flames," Naruto would say. "The only way to put them out is to either ditch your clothes or die." What? Naruto would be bluffing, of course. This flame is nothing near the level of an Amaterasu. However, it is more similar to how Greek fire works. Much like an oil to the flame, Naruto using his wind chakra spraying the heat evenly meant that it has a lot of oxygen to work with, meaning that it burns faster and easier, even if water's doused on it momentarily. This means that Naruto really could believe them that they'd die if they didn't rip their clothes off. The shinobi now going butt naked and running off into the woods screaming, "You won't get away with this." Naruto seeing them as those stone shinobi run away. Naruto would walk forward, putting out the flames as he then uses his magic pulling it back to him. "Good job, Suki. We scared off those shinobi right and good, huh?" "If only it was that simple with Hidan," he'd say. Naruto would walk forward as he begins to investigate their goods, taking some kunai as well as any materials that they might have that could be useful and storing them in his pack. Naruto would then pull his cloak back on as he and Suki continue their walk, as I mentioned, finally reaching the city. When Naruto arrives, he would find that the city had a completely different name. What? Naruto be thinking? This is the right place, right? Naruto pulling out the map that Kushina had provided for him of the great nations. Naruto would look around seeing huge buildings, clearly refurbished after something happened. Little would he know that after Hidan had abandoned this village, he'd slaughtered all the shinobi in it, leaving it as a ghost town. But after all these years later, it had reestablished itself as a gambling and party town. Naruto would see the nightclubs and girls coming out of it as he realizes thinking he should read the rest of Kushina's note, looking down underneath the text where she had instructed him about the village, warning him that it had been actually a revitalized city. Ah, damn it, Naruto would think. Maybe this is a giant waste of time after all, Naruto would say, thinking he'd have to wander around starving while looking for anything. Naruto would wander around as he realizes that bringing a fox into a bustling town would probably freak people out. This'll drain my powers for a while. Suki, I'm sorry, girl. Suki would turn, her ears confused, as she clearly folds them over her head, wondering what he means, as Naruto then uses a spell on her, transforming her into a fox girl, with clothes on this time, of course. Suki, you're gonna have to stay in that form, at least while we're in the city. I don't want anyone freaking out while you're here, okay? Suki would whimper, as she would then follow along her master, being slightly taller than him, which would annoy him. He would edit his spell slightly as she then shrinks in height, with her again confused. Naruto walking through town would find a rather strange-looking person. What's this guy doing, he'd be thinking, as he sees an old man with a red coat and green clothes on underneath that, wearing odd sandals, walking around sniffing the girls walking around town, with him following them around. Naruto would walk in between him as he's about to grope her, as he then holds up his hand telling him to knock it off. That's not how a man should act, Naruto would say, looking him in the eyes. The girl would turn, blushing as she sees Naruto and his silver eyes and blonde hair, thanking him. You should probably get on home, miss, he'd say. Huh? What was that for? The old man would say, him looking down with his shaggy white hair, red lines going down his eyes. Seeing them would remind him of Hidan. Naruto would be a bit annoyed now. If you're so drunk, you should go home, Gramps, he'd say. Gramps? How old do you think I am, kid? This would be when Jiraiya would introduce himself. Jiraiya, the Toad Sage of Mount Miyaboku, out doing some surveillance. The Toad what? Naruto would say, a bit confused, obviously, running into some old pervert in the middle of town. You really don't get it, do ya? Look at those girls, kid. Doesn't your manly senses awaken? What are you talking about? Naruto would say, feeling uncomfortable smelling the alcohol. Ugh, Jiraiya would yawn, as Jiraiya then says, Hey, it's rude to not introduce yourself when someone tells you their name. Naruto would turn, telling him his name, and no, there's no reaction because what he actually said was Asura, since that is his real name, but due to my narration, we'll be calling him Naruto to avoid confusion. So Naruto telling Jiraiya's name would have no real effect, other than Jiraiya yawning and saying, Oh, that's a pretty weird name, kid. Coming from you, he'd say? Toad Sage? Really? That's not my name, Jiraiya would say. It's my title. Watch this, as Jiraiya would walk over to another woman, grabbing her shoulder, turning her around, as he then says, Don't you see my manliness? She quickly scream and throw her hands up, Jiraiya now pulling back as he falls over, her running away, as he was now causing commotion in town. Come here, Naruto would say, grabbing Jiraiya's sleeve and running off through town. Eek, it's that pervert and a little kid? Are they working together to peep on people? Naruto would turn screaming, No, we are not. I don't know him. I'm getting him out of here. As Jiraiya would be hiccuping, thinking, What a weird place. Jiraiya would be sitting down on a stool in an alleyway, as Naruto and Naotsuki would be standing there. This would be when Jiraiya would notice Suki, as he begins reaching to grope her. Suddenly Naruto's hand would come out, slapping Jiraiya's hand away, as he then de-transforms Suki back into a fox, her growling at Jiraiya. Jiraiya would throw his hands back, confused, as he was now just baited by a fox. I was almost labeled a furry there for a second, Jiraiya would be thinking. Naruto looked down and sigh, as Naruto mumbles to himself that he knew there'd be no leads on Hidan here. Damn, what a waste of time. Naruto would slam his head, looking back up into the brick wall behind him. Hidan, huh? Of the Akatsuki? Jiraiya would say, completely serious, not drunk anymore. What the? Naruto looked down, Jiraiya completely sober, as Jiraiya then looks up to him asking what he knows about the Akatsuki. Naruto looked down, saying, It's nothing, as Jiraiya would then hold his hand out, prepared to fight him, a kunai held to Naruto's throat. If you're working with the Akatsuki, then I don't think I can allow you to leave. Naruto would look into Jiraiya's red eyes with his silver ones. So that's what their name is, huh? The Akatsuki. That damned red cloud. Jiraiya would recognize that Naruto's not one of them as he lowers his knife. Naruto saying that if he hadn't done that, then Suki would have burned him to a crisp. Jiraiya would smirk, asking why he's here. I'm here for information, Naruto would say. Jiraiya for the same. Naruto would then respond saying, I don't know who you are, and I don't trust you. But I have my own goals here. Don't get in my way. Naruto would turn, sweeping his cloak as he walks out of the alleyway, with him deciding to do some further investigation and stay the night. Look, kid, if you plan on fighting that guy, I hope you know he's immortal. I'm well aware, Naruto would say, screaming back to him. Jiraiya would then make a sound. Sorry, Tsunade. Jiraiya would then shout back to Naruto, saying, if you really want to take down an immortal, you're gonna have to become one yourself. Naruto would turn, thinking, what? As Jiraiya then smiles, saying, he's interested. Jiraiya would then walk forward as he holds his hands to his side, saying, if you really want to find a way to become as close to an immortal as possible without throwing your humanity away, there's one person who can help you. Find the Slug Princess, Tsunade. If you can learn everything you can from her, you'll be almost nearly as unkillable as that guy, Jiraiya would say. Naruto wouldn't trust him, but he would keep this information in his head. Unkillable, huh? Might be nice. Naruto would turn, walking off, saying, it was a pleasure to meet you. Thank you for your information. With Jiraiya thinking this kid reminds him a lot of someone else he knew. Someone a long time ago. That being Minato. If you guys want to see the next part for What If Naruto Was a Warlock, seeing Naruto's next step in his journey, Yagakure, and anything else that'll be coming forward in the future, make sure to like this video, comment down below what you thought, and subscribe to my channel for more videos. I'll see you guys in the next one. Goodbye.